In this video, we'll be using AI locally. So this is not running on the internet. You'll really run these AI things locally using a Python module called Transformers. And what we'll build is a question answering machine. So an AI that can answer questions based on your data. So to build that project, we'll be using PyCharm, Python IDE. If you use something else, that's completely fine. You can use VS Code or whatever you prefer. In this course, we'll be just using PyCharm for simplicity. So what we'll do is create a new project. You'll see I already started PyCharm. Then give a name to your project. So I'll call it QA machine. And just name it whatever you feel is right. You'll see I'll be using Python 3.13 and I click create. So that sets up a Python project. You'll see some loading bar there. So first thing we'll need to do is to create a new Python file. Right click new Python and give it some name. So let's say hello.py. And we can now output something to the console, right? So we can say print hello world. And if we run it, you'll see that output in the console. So far, so good. Now, to use the AI, we'll use some Python modules that we'll install. So these are the Python module transformers and torque. These transformers, they completely changed AI. So it's a type of deep learning model. So it might sound a lot complicated, but don't worry. We go to PyCharm, settings. Then in here, we can find packages to install. So we click Python, interpreter, and then you see this little plus. So that's, if we go back, we have PyCharm, settings, Python interpreter. It might be that yours is collapsed. So there's a lot of stuff here. Python, you can unfold it, click interpreter, and then click this plus. From here, we can install these modules. So we type transformers. So that's with an S in the end, transformers. You'll see it's made by this Hugging Face team. They do all kind of AI stuff. We click install. Now that will take a moment to install. And this depends on another module that we'll need to install as well, which is the torque module. So that's torque. And that module we install as well. So we click close, we click OK, and you'll see this thing starts loading. So it's actually installing these packages that we ask it. You see it installs many packages instead of the two we selected. That's because these packages use other packages, or these modules use other modules. And that's why it's installing so many modules behind the scenes. So we have some Python program here. And what we'll be using is this transformer module. It's a deep learning module. And what we can do is to load it on top. So we say from transformers. And what we're going to import is a pipeline. So we say import pipeline. Then we create a new object. We create a pipeline object. And the type of object or the type of pipeline we'll be using is the question answering pipeline. So we say QA is pipeline of question answer or answering. Now make sure there's no typo in here. So there's question dash answering. Then we need some data. So we're going to use this on some data, on some text. We can define this text ourselves. So let's say data, and I'll use here 3 quotes so that I can type some random text. So for example, Python is a scripting language. C++ is an object-oriented programming language. And this is a YouTube video. So let's see if this runs. We don't do anything much here. We just import the transformers module. We create a QI pipeline and we define some data. So if we run this and it finished running, we should only see some message saying hello world. Now it might take some moment to load because we initialize this AI module. So you'll see it doesn't directly say hello world. It takes some time to initialize the module. Now let's actually use that module. So we can say question and we can feed a question. In this case, we want to have the results. So say the results uses that module, that QA, with the data. So the question, it will be, for example, what is Python? With the context being the data. And then we'll print the results. So let's run this program. We click run. Again, it might take a moment to load because you have this pipeline. But the second time you run it, it should be a bit faster. And you'll see we asked this question here in this form, and then we got this JSON back with different things. So we got a score, we got starts, ends, and also we got an answer. So if you want, of course, you can only print the answer. You'll see it's a dictionary. So what we can do is results and then only print the answer, right? Because maybe you don't want the other parameters. So now if we run it, you'll see it takes a second to load, and then it will tell, okay, it is a scripting language, and it answers that question, what is Python, simply based on this data we have here and the AI module. So what we can do next is we can make this interactive, right? So now we have a program, always the same question, always the same answer. We might want some interactivity. So we can get that question. So let's call it Q. We can get it from the keyboard input directly. We say enter question. And then we feed that question Q into, we replaced its original question. So it gets it from the variable and the variable from the keyboard input. So let's save this. So if you want, click File, Save, or use the shortcut. And now if we run it, it will ask us a question. In a second, enter a question. And then we can type a question and it should answer the question. So if you say, what is C++? Question mark. And then it gives us the answer, an object-oriented programming language, right? So it answers based on the data we already have. It cannot answer questions that is not in our data. If we run it and ask something else, it might make up a bogus data, all right? So now if we are running it and as we say, what is assembly? And it doesn't know that, so it tells assembly is a YouTube video, which obviously is not. So the AI module can be confident in answers that is not supposed to be confident in, right? It just doesn't have the data. It can only answer based on the data it has. Now, what we can do is we can make a loop here so that we can sort of have an GPT or an interface where we can keep chatting. So we can say while true, that keeps it running. And then it just keeps running forever. Every time we ask a question, because of this while loop, it repeats this block of code forever. And then it feeds it into the pipeline and it gives the result. So if we run this, it will take a moment to start to initialize the pipeline. Then we can ask a question. So what is Python? And you'll see it gives an answer. Now we can ask another question, like what is this? And it tells you this is a YouTube video. Now we can ask all kinds of questions now, so it doesn't really matter, but it doesn't necessarily always give a good answer. It depends on your data set. So what is, for example, scripting? And let's see, it tells us scripting is Python, which they are related, but is not necessarily always Python, right? So based on the data, it can give answers, but only based on the data. So the more data you have, of course, the better answers it can provide for this question answering model. And the cool thing about this model is that it completely runs offline. It's not using any website or any API behind the scenes. This runs completely on your local computer. Now, if you're interested in playing around with this, click at the link below and play around, download the file and play around with it yourself.